Understanding your keyframes is super important when you're editing a video. Find out why and how to utilize them in today's video. Hey, what's up? It's Chris from Brooker Films, and yes, in today's video I'm talking about keyframing, the importance of keyframing, and how you can take advantage of them in Adobe Premiere Pro. So to begin with, what is a keyframe? A keyframe is basically a point of animation. So when you're editing a video, you will typically use your keyframes to adjust the scale, the rotation, the position. This is basically adding animation to your footage. It's really important to understand all about keyframing because it carries you through the most basic animation all the way up to the most complex animations that you could physically imagine. So by getting your head around keyframing now basically means that you're going to be able to take on more complex animations in the future, and this is going to improve your filmmaking. So let's jump onto the computer and let's run through some of the basic keyframe animations that you can do in Adobe Premiere Pro.
So once we're inside of Adobe Premiere Pro and we have some footage in front of us, we can just go through and we can just find a point where we want to create some keyframes. So we'll just go up to the video effects tab. This is the motion tab, and we're just going to select a keyframe on the scale and on the position. And then we'll just scroll through to a point where we want to change the value of this. So we'll go into scale and we'll just increase this to 120%, and we'll just make sure that the position is fixed. So if we zoom into this and we play this back, you can see that there is a really soft zoom happening here. And that is because the value is changing between these two keyframes. And this is basically what keyframes do. You change the value of a different keyframe and the video will slowly change and make those changes between those two spots. So let's see, that movement was quite slow. So if we wanted to speed that movement up, all we need to do is just pull those keyframes closer together and that movement automatically speeds up. The same thing applies if we want to slow this down. So we'll separate the keyframes even further and that motion is really slow. However, if we wanted to do a zoom in, zoom out effect, we just repeat those same keyframes that we had at the beginning and just copy them after the second set of keyframes, and we have a zoom in and a zoom out. Now, when we were playing that back, you could clearly tell that there were keyframes there because the video sharply stopped and sharply started again. So if we wanted to smooth that out, we could select all of the keyframes, go into temporal interpolation, and then we can just change this to ease in. Now, what this is going to do, this is going to slowly start the movement and then slowly start going out again. So this basically makes those keyframes a lot smoother. There you go, that looks much better. Right, so moving on from scale and position, we're just going to delete these. So I'm just going to press this, get rid of that. And now we'll move down towards opacity. So we'll create a keyframe on 100% on the opacity. We'll scroll across and we'll adjust the opacity to 0%. And now, as you can see, because the value is different, the opacity has changed. So we've got a fade out to black and then it fades back in again, and same thing again with the time. Like the further the distance apart, the slower the fade out is going to be. So as you can see here, there is nearly no gap in between all of these, so there's going to be a very fast dip to black. So we'll get rid of that and we'll go down to the next example. So we're going to go into rotation, and in rotation I'm going to create a keyframe on 0%. And then we'll just change the value of the second keyframe to a higher number. So we're currently on 48. And as you can see, the screen is rotating with the backflip. But the problem is with this is you can see that black. So in order to get rid of this, you would have to increase the scale and the positioning as well as the rotation. So you'd have to zoom into the image as well as rotating whilst also maintaining the same position. So as you can see, this is a little bit tedious, but this is how you would go through the process of animating the camera movement in this scene. So that's a really cool movement, and we did achieve that by adjusting the scale, the position, and the rotation, and by creating keyframes along the way. But moving on from camera movement, we're going to go into our brightness and our exposure controls. So we'll go into the levels. We'll create a keyframe on the white input level. We'll scroll across a few frames. And then we're just going to increase this to around 160. Scroll across another few frames, create a brand new keyframe, increase this back to 255. And we play this back and we have this flashing effect. Now the same thing applies for the motion, the rotation, the opacity. If we increase the duration in between these keyframes, that effect is now suddenly drawn out. So we'll get rid of that. And we'll just move on to our last example. So we'll go down into volume. And unfortunately, I can't show you this example, but you'll be able to hear it. I'll create a keyframe on the levels. I'll pull the levels up to 6 decibels, and in theory when you do this there should be a crescendo within the music that you're listening to. And that's it. Keyframing is really awesome, and understanding the basics of keyframe animation will really help to progress you from a beginner to a professional filmmaker. So make sure that you get your head around keyframe animation now.
If you enjoyed watching this video, then please do let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe and push that bell icon to stay updated on all future uploads. Thank you ever so much for watching. I really do truly appreciate it. I hope you're having the most incredible day today. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.